the recording. Perfect. How have you been then, James? You been good?
Yes, excellent. Thank you, Lewis. Yeah, no grumbles. It's a bit warm up here in Sheffield, but I suspect it is wherever we are today.
Absolutely. Makes a change.
We can't moan, can we?
Exactly. No, absolutely. Totally agree. Totally agree. We'll leave it for a couple of minutes to kind of everyone to kind of come through, and then we'll get underway on that one. Let's have a little look here. So participants coming through nicely. Jolly good. So what we will be using is the chat features. So you should all be familiar with the chat functions now. We've been using the chat functions on Zoom and Teams for the last over a year and a half now. So if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate. We will be using them facilities. Put them through and we'll get them questions answered for you. We're also going to be using the chat facility. So if you can all hear us okay, if you could just put a little yes in the chat, just to make sure you can hear us and see us, and then we'll start to get things all underway on that one, which should be brilliant. Okay, fantastic. So we'll start the webinar and I'll introduce our guest this afternoon. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Lewis Byford. I'm the co-founder of Antony George Recruitment. The real reason for doing these webinars is to really add value to the industry that we work in and that we adore as well. Today, we're joined by James Marshall. Those of you that don't know James, James is Head of Proposition at Two Plan Wealth Management. He's been there for just over 10 years now. And prior to that, he worked in the national account for Friends Provident, working with all major national and network firms. People that don't know Two Plan, they're based over in Leeds, and they have over 300 advisors operating in their network across the UK. So me and James have known each other for over 5 years now, been working together, built up a really great relationship. And yeah, we're really pleased to welcome you this afternoon, James. Appreciate that.
Right. Thanks, Lewis.
No worries. So we had obviously the day's webinar obviously all about how to save financial advisors a day a week embracing technology. All right. And James has obviously put some slides together for us. And if he wants to start to share his screen, we can start that process, which would be brilliant.
Yeah, thanks, Lewis. Just give me 1 second.
Fantastic. Wonderful. I think
is that it? Can you
that's
see it?
That's perfect. Wonderful.
Okay, well, should I crack on, Lewis?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll plug in as I need to. All right.
Okay, no worries. Well, thanks very much for Antony George for giving me the opportunity to, talk to you all today, and hopefully it will be interactive through the chat service and question and answers. So thanks everybody for joining us. I appreciate in the heat. It's probably not the easiest thing to do, but you might be sat there with your shorts on or your ice creams, and hopefully we'll give you something to sort of think about, because this session is all about trying to make it thought-provoking, looking in your own current environment and how you are sort of using technology. So as Lewis alluded to, how do you gain an extra 1 week or 1 day a week in terms of productivity? That may mean that you want an extra game of golf, you might want a walk with a dog, you might want to work harder and earn more money, and that's down to you. But I think one thing that I found is that everybody is using lockdown as a way of sort of a period of reflection. It's made us all stop and think about what we're doing, clients that we deal with, have we got the work-life balance right? And therefore people are making decisions about their lifestyle and the careers and what they're going to do going forward. So we'll all have those personal thoughts. As I said, this session is really designed to get you to think about your existing systems and processes and support, and try and make sure that you gain something out of the next sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, or however long we go with this. I think Lewis has very kindly issued some pre-webinar questionnaires, and asked you 3 simple questions. And what came back was, how would you rate your current technology? I think there was a range here, Lewis, from 2 to 9. The average was 5.96. So the people at 2, obviously there's a lot of room for improvement. Even the people who are scoring 9, there's some improvement there, albeit marginally. I think then when you ask, what is the most time-consuming part of the advice process? in summary, really, it came into three main areas: fact finding, annual reviews, and writing reports. We know, I think the vast majority of advisors like to be out there seeing clients, strutting the stuff, pressing the flesh. But, you know, all the administration is a time-consuming part. So, you know, they're the issues that most people are flagging. I think then the final question was, what is the one thing you'd change about your existing technology? And again, in summary, it was all about automation, integration, and avoid duplication. So there was quite a lot about talking about how many times you had to re-key information, and we realized that's a time-consuming method. So that's sort of a bit of background in terms of getting everyone on the same page. I think then what we wanted to do is, rather than this just be, you know, about Two-Plan, is have a look at some external research and, you know, some reports that have gone out in terms of consumer behavior. There was a recent KPMG survey that, you know, highlighted that 43% of consumers are worried about financial security in 2021. Interestingly, to some extent, it was quite polarized. So 41% are financially worse off, and 45% are better off and intend to save more. And certainly, I know at Two-Plan, we found a lot of advisors are saying, you know, people have got a lot of money in the bank, they want to put money in their ISA, etc. You know, when I'm walking the streets in the morning, it's amazing how many people are building extensions and home improvements and whatever. So
very true.
It is that polarized world that we're in. You know, I think 45% of public predict that digital channels will be their main connection. And I think, you know, that comes through in everyone's life, doesn't it? I look at my iPhone and it's telling me how much screen time I'm spending on it. You know, whether it's the newspapers have gone and you're reading it on your iPhone. And you know, I've got a 10-year-old son and an 83-year-old mother, and both of them are really embracing technology and using it. So I think whatever age you are, you know, that's definitely something that people are using a lot more. And I suppose this goes without saying, but 63% of the public rank value for money as their top criteria, which is always the case. People want to get a pound of flesh, make sure they get, you know, some value. But the summary from the KPMG report really was, you know, some key ingredients we know for building successful relationships is around trust, it's around value, and it's around, you know, how do you deliver your brand and that value to your client. You know, there's obviously a greater presence of digital technology, as we've already alluded to. So that's sort of a pretty key thing. But, you know, this value for money and how do you demonstrate value? Some of you may have seen this, but this is an old slide that I like to sort of draw on as a Ruley slide, which looked at what clients value against where do advisors spend the time. And what's quite interesting here is we know that advisors spend a lot of time at the front end of the process, gathering the information, preparing for meetings, etc. But really, that clients value the fact that when you're sat in front of them, when you're talking to them, when you're engaging with them. So a lot of this is about, you know, how are you going to engage with them? You know, how do you put yourself in the shop window? How do you talk to them in a time-effective way? Because to live up to the title of the presentation, how do you get a day a week, an extra day a week back? You know, it's all about working efficiently.
Definitely.
I think then again, if we look at the fact find process, which was one of the key sort of hassle areas or areas that drag people down, you know, it's quite interesting. This again, looking outside, and we looked at CashCal, who did a survey about, you know, how do clients actually prefer to complete a fact find. So you can see over the last 12 months a marked increase in the people that are actually comfortable doing a digital fact find. How convenient is it? It probably is really convenient. So as well as my 10-year-old son, I've got some older daughters, and I know they're quite happy sitting on their apps, filling in the fact find, you know, using their iPhones. And I think it's an interesting one that more and more people are probably looking at that fact find process and saying, how can I streamline it? How can I get more efficient? Do you think you'd say more time completing a digital fact find? Yes, you would. And I think if you went back to that slide where very few people were really that bothered about, the clients weren't that bothered about the way that you gather data, it's probably a good one for you to think about how are you capturing that data. Now that's the end of the the PowerPoint presentation, Lewis.
There's some good highlights there, isn't there? Some really, really good highlights there that really makes people think where they're actually spending their time, you know, because that fact-finding process that does take a long time for advisors to do, where do the clients actually appreciate, the value? And sometimes they don't see it in that, but that's where sometimes advisors are spending a large proportion of their time.
Definitely. So, I mean, what I was going to do, I mean, we've got people from, different organisations here. This is not about a two-plan plug, but, whether you're using Intelligent Office or Xplan or IntelliFlow or whatever, you'll have a variety of systems that you're going to capture the data. I was just going to show you the sort of our client portal where someone logs on, and I suppose from our viewpoint, this is all about getting the clients to engage with you. So when we were talking earlier about the external surveys, about trust, building a digital footprint, etc.
Yeah.
One of the things that you can do with with the portal is obviously get your clients to input and give the latest information. Again, key criteria for you, it might take you 20 minutes, half an hour to fill in, whether it's a paper fact find, whether it's an electronic fact find. But quite often, Lewis, what we find is people then aren't using that data because it's not in a format that it interacts with other parts of the system. So even if they've filled it in online, they might have to then send it to an admin staff or paraplanning staff, which will have to rekey it in or put it in a different system. I even came across someone the other day that was leaving a network, and they literally had to go into the office and scan all the paper fact finds into the system.
I know, it's crazy.
And it is pretty scary if people are still working with that one. And I'm not saying that all clients want to engage with you, especially at outset electronically. But what I think this does is, if you've got a good sort of fact find system, clients can go in, you can send them the different links, and they can go in there and they can fill in the different assets and liabilities and employment details or whatever. If you were doing a review, for example, clients can go in, they can update their income, they can update their expenditure. So this is, I think with the technology, Lewis, and everybody who's listening, it's about giving clients choices, isn't it? If they want you to sit down there and capture the data, that's fine. Alternatively, it might be a case of if they input it straight into the machine, whether it's your admin staff, whether it's your paraplanning staff, everybody can share that data if it's in an electronic format.
Definitely. Even this week, I was speaking to one advisor who is very much, adamant on everything still being paper based, and he's spending so much time on outsourced administration, outsourced paraplanning, and he said my clients would never be bought into anything like this, but so it's how you educate your clients, moving them on with the times to make them understand that if you do this, I can have a much more in-depth conversation with you without our hour and a half meeting. I can give you more advice, which is really where my value is. My value is not going to be filling out very basic reports that you can do in your own time prior to that meeting. It's just educating the client in moving with the times in a way.
I think, one recent experience for me, Lewis, that, brought it home, but I went to the dentist the other week, and the dentist, a couple of days before the appointment, actually sent me a questionnaire, and I did all that sort of data gathering for the dentist before I was even in the surgery. Now, obviously, it's probably been exaggerated a little bit with COVID and whatever.
Yeah.
And actually, when I got in there, the dentist had looked at my records, got a good understanding of the health of my teeth and issues and whatever, and they could deal with the thing. Because I think, as you say in there, the key thing really is about helping clients get to where they want to be, the goals and their aspirations, as opposed to filling in, hard facts and getting just sort of basic information off them. So that's a key bit. Are there questions on that have come through at the moment, Lewis, or not?
Not as of yet. I mean, does anybody currently use something similar to this with their current firm? Just maybe put a yes if anybody is in the chat feature or anything like that. What I also found as well is people have actually got used to this, but are not actually using it within their business. So, they're little things that you can implement, and, speaking to your, current employers about using this sort of technology, this is going to stop a lot of the issues while we're on here today, using the same processes all the time, the same duplication, everything like that. that, which is good. One person, Dean, has mentioned, at the moment I send a Word document for a client, but something more digital would be better. Would be better and more with the times. Also mobile friendly, as much as many people are using computers and laptops. So can this sort of system, can that be used on an iPad or anything like that? Can anyone do this, or do they need to have a particular system for this?
No, it's just a web browser. That's all you need, and then go on. It's all sort of you can complete it on a laptop, a tablet, on your iPhone, whatever. So it'll all sort of link in together. And I think you said Dean sending out Word documents, and lots of people do that, don't they? Whether it's a Word document, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet or whatever, because there's nothing worse going to a client's house and spending half an hour sat on the sofa waiting for them to go and find all the income and expenditure and the budgets and whatever. Let's get it organised. But teaching my grandma to suck eggs. But that's definitely fact find. I think. But the key thing about fact find is once you've got the fact find, is then using the data in the fact find. It's all very well getting in electronic form, but then if you just send it away and it's in some storage space, it's almost a case of how do you unzip the fact find, and then from that data that's contained in the fact find, how do you use that going forward? So I think that sort of moves us on. I'm not going to go through everything on this one, but it probably moves us on to you set up some business. And on this side, I was just going to show you the valuation tabs where, again, just really integration technology enables you to go into any particular investment. So I'd say if I have a look at this Aviva platform, we as an organisation, and again, this is not bespoke to Two-Plan, Intelligence Office do it, etc. Sometimes the feedback is that you've got to swallow a training manual to be able to know how to get everybody to work it through. But with the valuation schedule, we go off to all the major providers and platforms on a weekly basis and pull down a real-time valuation. So you could go into any of the underlying funds and you can see the total value, the unit price, and the units held over a period of time. So all that data is accessible. As we say, with all the mainstream providers and platforms, you've got all that information. So, if you're not currently using technology as a way of pulling back your valuations, you're probably missing a trick. And I think, again, quite often people are, looking at how they save time, how they save money, how they work with administration staff. And this is not a slight on administration staff, but how often are administration staff holding on, or indeed you yourself, holding on to a provider line, trying to get a valuation, trying to get through to the right people. So the fact that you can pull this data through into the system is a major factor.
So a couple of questions coming from Tricia. She currently uses the IO fact find and currently use the PFP on IO so clients can view the valuations. That's good, so they can see all that information, which is good. She said, any tips to streamline recommendations or outsourcing reports, anything like that? Is that something that can be looked at to streamline those?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to go on to the review process. I mean, if it was existing policies, we could have a look at, how can you automate existing plans and the valuations. You're right that it's great that you're pulling those values through. A point I was going to make as well, that sometimes people fear that if a client can see the valuation without you going along with your spreadsheet or your report at the end of the year, does a client not perceive as much value in you? Because actually all I've got to do is press the button. And
I've got an update.
Well, we are getting a weekly valuation, but if you wanted to, you can hit the create the valuation button, request a valuation button there, and get a daily valuation. So that's one thing. But maybe let me just come to. Did you say it was Julie who just asked a question, Lewis?
That's it. That was it. Yeah.
If we just come out of that. It's going to come out of that. How do I just get rid of this bar at the top? Can I just move it?
Yeah, just move it along. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this is some of the technology and how we've got it to pull together. So it links a little bit more to the review report. But again, I think then it's joining up the technology with whether it be FE analytics or some performance figures. So in this report, for example, you can see typical things that you would normally go and do a review. You'd be looking at their ATR, looking at the existing investments, looking at goals and objectives, the investment performance, looking at the asset allocation. And again, it's probably using your systems to actually automate that process. So at the moment, there might be a team of people in the office that are pulling it together. I'll come back to the ATR and how you can get an up-to-date ATR as part of a review. But it's looking at your current ATR and your previous ATR. I think we've already touched on, Lewis, the fact that a key point of getting hard data and getting some of the nitty-gritty out of the way means that then you can focus on the goals and objectives. So I know more and more people are moving into this sort of financial planning space. So again, you can record whether they're on track to meet the particular goals and objectives. We then look at investment performance, which we've seen on the valuation page, but again, that would pull through. But then again, this is where technology works, and I think if you're not doing this, investigate how you can get various data feeds from different systems. So we're pulling it through from FE Analytics, and what it's doing is it's pulling through the asset allocation, and it's pulling through the different geographical sectors that the money's invested in. So as we know, a key requirement of the review is suitability of the investments. Does it match with their attitude to risk? If you've got a system that's highlighting any shortfalls or shortcomings, obviously that's going to be advantageous. Just while I'm on this, just to finish it off, there's then a summary in terms of what are the additional changes that we're going to make. And then within the appendices, again, because we had in the fund feeds coming through, we move into all the different underlying funds and the actual performance figures. So I don't know whether that answers that question in terms of how do you streamline your reports, but yeah, it's one, putting it into the hopper to be able to unzip the data, to be able to then interact with different systems all seamlessly, which is giving you that, saving you time accordingly.
Definitely. And like preparing your review meeting, sometimes take some advisors, days to put together. Whereas, this takes a couple of space of half an hour to produce all this, and it looks good, comes across well. So I think it's just using the systems that you've got available at your resources to the best that they can be, and not kind of staying with the times. It was a sample report. Are you able to? She said, "Are you able to email a sample report?" Yeah, after Judy, we're able to send an example report over. That won't be a problem at all. I'll also be sending over everyone that attends as well a bit of a business plan to basically review your business effectively. Give yourself a bit of an overview and how you can basically think about your business and really change it and make the end of 2021 and 2022 the best that it can be as well. So I'll be getting that over to you at the end of it as well. So that's brilliant. I
think then just hopping back into the portal, if we were doing sort of reviews, one of the things is that, again, getting prepared for the review. So there I'm showing you the output. Just it sort of went off tangent slightly, but if you were doing a review, you can also send out the questions or an attitude to risk. I mean, obviously, making sure that attitude to risk is still aligned is pretty key. What you can see here is, again, there's a facility where you can send that, the ATR out. We've done a little animation there. So again, if a client's got a message from you saying, Lewis is coming out, doing your review, there's a little animation there talking about risk profiling, talking about capacity for loss, talking about risk and reward, and really just sets the scene for the importance of answering these questions. Maybe in your own time. We're not trying to say you should overanalyze it, but what's been quite interesting for us as a business, as people have started to do their attitude to risk questionnaires themselves, is it's possibly thrown up different answers. Now, some people might go, well, that's because they've misinterpreted the question or whatever. But I think it also demonstrates added value where the advisor can go back and say, look, you answered it this way, last year, this is how you've answered it today. And again, it just helps the client understand and shows where you add some value. So you've got that, you've got the ATR, and then quite simply you would just go in and you'd answer the ATR accordingly, and you end up with your final your final answer if you answered all the 18 questions. So again, Lewis, Julie, that's possibly how we would streamline reviews with the reports, and also giving the client the facility to do things like complete the review questionnaire beforehand.
Yeah, I think it's just enabling the advisor to have a more in-depth conversation, which then goes back down to value, doesn't it? Whether you're having that value, having that meeting face-to-face, or like a lot of advisors have changed their businesses and are moving, 100% remote, you still need to be showing that you're adding value and there's value in that fee. And I think having them sort of conversations, giving them stuff to do ahead of the time, again, it just shows you where that value comes in on that one.
Yeah, I think as well, what our advisors are telling me is it's all about flexibility, Lewis. So, one size doesn't fit all. We're not saying everything should be remote. You should use this 100% of the time. It's tailoring it to suit yourself. I mean, one of the big, godsends, I suppose, for us as a business and our advisors over lockdown has been the secure portal. So, sorry, I've been talking too long. It's long me back out.
Not like us, James, it took too long. I think his internet might have just dipped. Oh, you're still there, James?
Yeah. Sorry, I think I lost you there. I've come back.
Yeah.
Come back.
Yeah, we're all back. So if we just start from scratch from there, just in case people miss that, it all just froze for an internet for a minute there.
Okay. Yeah.
So
We're back. Are we back, Lewis?
Yeah, we are back. Yeah, we are back. So if we just start again from the beginning, from this particular section, I think we had just had an internet blip there.
Yeah. So what I was saying, Lewis, is that what's been a real godsend, I think, during lockdown has been our secure portal that has enabled advisors to communicate and send messages and documents to the clients.
Right.
So I can come down here, Lewis, please find enclose your report or blah, blah, blah. I can attach all your documents there. I can hit the send button and send those over to you. You as a client would get a message to say, James has sent you a document, and then you can go in and you can see what the client has downloaded and what they've acknowledged. So again, I think someone had put in the feedback, it'd be great if there were no wet signatures required.
Yeah.
And again, this enables you to sign the document electronically. It's a secure environment. It stops all the encryption, all the need to send different passwords separately, etc. So, if we go into a document that we've sent to the client, you can even see date and timestamp. Sorry, is it me? Right. Is it me? It must be me.
No, I'm not sure. So I heard up to, you can see a date and time stamp, basically, is what we got.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is there's no need for wet signatures, and you can see a date and time stamp of the document. So again, it all saves you time. If you think about the amount of time printing documents off, the expenses sending documents through the post, it takes all that out. And that's why, I think when you add up all these little component parts, it makes an awful big difference, in terms of how you communicate. The final bit on that one, if we just go to the dashboard, if you're sending publications out, I don't know whether you're sending them newsletters or different documents. Again, you can just post those into the portal, send the client a message saying, I've uploaded the latest newsletter, and there they go. Again, saving you time and expense. If you want a hard copy, there's a hard copy as well.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I'll shut up now, Lewis, and I don't know whether there's any more questions come in.
Has anyone got any questions at all for myself or James that'd like to ask us at this sort of stage? Obviously, the point of this was just to try and really reiterate that we want to get James on board to kind of understand a little bit of the technology side of what Plan had been doing, but also from our side, speaking with advisors all day, every day, and really understanding from them that they're not really using the technology, even free from what they've got access to, as effectively as they can. And we wanted to give an example that if you use the technology that you've got as best as you can save a day a week. The amount of time I ring an advisor and they go, I'm so busy at the minute, and it's like, well, actually, if we actually analyze your business, can you actually save that time, and enjoy your days out, or like you say, work harder and earn more, or have that extra day off at the golf range. Although I'm not ready for the golf range yet, I'm still doing my lessons. Dean has got a question. So he said, advice on the best piece of technology for a mortgage advisor on that side. So could a mortgage advisor use this sort of piece of technology as well for fact finding, stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all that's available. I think, the secure portal is very useful as well, because, again, there's a load of paper, as we know, in the mortgage process. So, you've got almost a vault there that you can exchange information. But yeah, that's available to, mortgage protection, investments, and pension advisors.
Yeah, no, absolutely fair enough. And the research side for the mortgage, would that be, maybe, do you plug into likes of TriGold or Mortgage Brain or something like that?
It interacts into TriGold and then pulls through into the suitability report, all the standard stuff.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Appreciate that. Well, thank you very much indeed, James. I'll wind things up if nobody else has got any other questions. This obviously was all been recorded today, so you'll be able to feedback and have a read back of it. And I'll also make sure we get the business plan with the questions over to you all. If it's not later on this afternoon, it'll be first thing in the morning. And if James wouldn't mind sending over the example report for people as well, that'd be really, really helpful as well on that front there.
No worries. So thanks very much for having me, Lewis, and thanks everyone for listening.
Likewise. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers, Deb.